we have a book for everybody. It's by our founder, True and Kathy, right? True and Kathy invented the chicken sandwich. He actually interviewed me 20 years ago for going into partnership with him. So it's a great book, a humbling story, kind of like Old Town Trolley, the way historical tours started. Same type of humble beginnings, great story. But even more important than the book is everybody's going to get a free milkshake. So make sure you get that before you leave as well. Thank you, Dave. Again, Dave and I were talking about being involved with the community, and when we moved here 20 years ago, I got to tell you, it's really a privilege to be here. I'm thankful for this opportunity to speak to you all, because 20 years ago when we moved here, we looked at Old Town Trolley as kind of the model. I mean, we looked at the way you were engaging the community, and we looked at the way your hospitality worked. We took the tours, and your drivers and tour guides were amazing, and I took note of all that. I'm a big note taker. You know, anytime you see me at the restaurant, I've got this. I'm always taking notes. Our battle cry at Chick-fil-A is every day better. You know, we're always looking for continuous improvement. We're always self-evaluating ourselves. So today I just want to give you a kind of behind the scenes, behind the curtain look at Chick-fil-A, you know, our culture, our mindset. But before that, you know, Chick-fil-A is kind of characterized by high energy. And Takai and I were just talking about how important positive high energy is in the hospitality business, right? It's the first thing the guests see, right? It's first impressions or lasting impressions, and Chick-fil-A really focuses on that. So we're going to test that a little bit right now, because I have an exercise that I want you to participate with me, and I'm going to be kind of looking in the room, because you're all in the hospitality business. I'm going to be looking for energy level, positive energy, enthusiasm, passion, all those things that differentiate whether it's Chick-fil-A or Old Town Trolley from everybody else. And I want you to be so loud. I want Yeah, I want you to be so loud. I want the Red Train people to hear it down the street.
You guys know how to do this.
So this is basically, you know, before I give a presentation like this or a speech like this, I'd like to deputize you as ambassadors of Chick-fil-A. So this is how you're going to be deputized by your energy level that you're going to show here. So I'm going to teach you the Chick-fil-A cheer. Did you know there was a Chick-fil-A cheer? No. So we could go for hours about Chick-fil-A history. So much history. A lot of fun to talk about. For example, did you know there was no food court before Chick-fil-A? Yeah. So Chick-fil-A started the food court. Everybody thinks McDonald's invented the nuggets. Nope, Chick-fil-A invented the nuggets. So on and on and on. Wow. But here's the deal. Here's the Chick-fil-A cheer. This is how you're going to get deputized into as an ambassador of Chick-fil-A. All right. So here's the instructions, right? And when I'm doing an orientation with new team members, I'm always looking to see how they can follow instructions, right? So the Chick-fil-A cheer is, I'm going to say, is everybody happy? And your reply is going to be, yeah, man, H-A-P-P-Y, and you're going to scream and shout and clap and cheer, okay? And I actually have a decibel meter app on my phone that I measure decibels, and I always like to see a group this large to see if you can set a new record, okay? So let me get the decibel. Yep, there it is. So I'm going to repeat the instructions one more time. I'm going to say, is everybody happy? And your reply is going to be as loud as you can. Yeah, man, H-A-P-P-Y, okay? Are we ready? Here we go.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Is everybody happy?
Yeah, H-A-P-P-Y.
That's a new record. We got the 142. That is a diesel truck, a blender, a motorcycle. So that is amazing.
You do not have to ask Gator Bobs to be loud. We are always loud. Sometimes. With customers sometimes.
Loud and proud.
I love it. Well, that was great. I appreciate you all participating in that exercise. You're all now are deputized and ambassadors of Chick-fil-A officially. But again, before I get into it too much, I did want to recognize my partner, Teresa, who does just an amazing job. You met Teresa. And she comes back and from delivering to you all, and she says those tour guides and delivery, driver, everybody is just so nice. And we see the green shirts coming into Chick-fil-A, and we recognize them, and they're all smiley face folks and just so kind, because the hospitality business isn't easy, right? Oh my gosh. And we're coming out of COVID, you know, and everybody's anxious and stressed out, you know, and when we moved here 20 years ago, you know, my background is I'm an ex-CPA, retired military. Teresa and I met in the military. And 20 years ago, I was working for a Fortune 500 company, running an international sales and marketing department, flying all over the world in corporate jets and just enjoying the benefits of being an executive in a Fortune 500 company. But I always had this dream of being an entrepreneur. And I heard about Chick-fil-A, but I never had been to a Chick-fil-A before, right? And so before I get into too much about the Chick-fil-A culture and kind of behind the scenes, it's important to understand that what you see at our restaurants, and we have 2 restaurants right now, right? So we have our original restaurant for Home Depot, opened 20 years ago, just our 20th anniversary, and our new restaurant opened up on State Road 16. So it's a big organization. We have over 300 people now. Yeah, Teresa and I were talking about 20 years ago when we opened, 22 people on our payroll, you know, and literally nobody knew what Chick-fil-A was, and Miss Teresa and I getting in the cow suit out on US 1, waiting in traffic, begging people to come in and try our chicken sandwich, right? So things have changed a little bit, but we don't take that for granted, right? We don't take that for granted. We understand that we have to be self-aware, right? We have to continue to grow every day better. But 20 years ago, I was very happy in my role as an executive for a Fortune 500 company, but then I went to a Chick-fil-A one night in Jacksonville, and my life literally changed. It really is linked to what you experience in our Chick-fil-A's today, because I tell you, I was heading down Atlantic Boulevard in Jacksonville 20 years ago from my work in downtown Jacksonville, and I saw this Chick-fil-A sign, you know, and I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to find out what all the hubbub is about, right? So I turned into this Chick-fil-A. And my first thing I noticed was, you know, the parking lot was clean. Like, a clean parking lot in a fast food restaurant? That doesn't make sense, right? I mean, literally, at our leadership meetings, you know, you may think we're talking about 10-year strategies and all this. We're talking about gum on the sidewalk outside our restaurant. Those are the little details in our business that our guests notice that are so important that we talk about, right? So I drove into this parking lot, and I noticed it was clean. I get out of my car, and I can remember walking into the restaurant. And I remember I had to put my sunglasses on because the concrete was so bright that I had to put my sunglasses on, right? I mean, do you see that at a fast food restaurant? But you better see it at Chick-fil-A, right? So that, you know, all the things I'm talking about in the hospitality business, if you want to grow your business, you got to positively differentiate yourself somehow, right? Whether it's, you know, cleanliness, or it's handing people buttermints and wipes, you know, that's the kind of thing. Whether it's, you ever see the fresh ground pepper shaker we have at Chick-fil-A when you get mac and cheese or salads or soup, this big pepper grinder floats through the dining room. And I tell our team, it's not whether you want the pepper, it's the gesture, right? That's our love tool, right? It's that pepper grinder floating through the dining room, and maybe a family off in the corner saying, maybe the daughter saying to the mom, "Mom, what is that?" And the mom says, "That's Chick-fil-A loving on their customers," you know? And you think people are going to remember that? Absolutely. So everything you can do to positively differentiate yourselves is what we want to do. And that's our mindset. That's our culture at Chick-fil-A. And I can remember 20 years ago walking to that restaurant, and I'm coming to the door to walk in, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this team member, this young man, not shuffling. We call it shuffling, and we call it hustling at Chick-fil-A. Shuffling versus hustling. This young man was hustling across the dining room to open the door for me, right? And Takai and I were talking about a little while ago is that we just, whether it's Old Town Trolley or it's Chick-fil-A, we just want our guests to feel like they're coming home, right? That we've been waiting for them, right? And so that's why I felt with my first Chick-fil-A experience. They were waiting for me. This young man opened the door, welcome to Chick-fil-A. And we have something at Chick-fil-A called the Core 4. It's eye contact, it's smile, it's speaking enthusiastically, it's staying connected to the guest. Really important. You know, you go to a fast food restaurant, if somebody's looking you in the eye, you can celebrate, right? That's unusual, right? But we want that to happen at Chick-fil-A. And again, our language is distinctive. When a guest says thank you at Chick-fil-A, we say, "My pleasure." Somebody said, I think Takai said my pleasure. Somebody said, you know, I'm hearing my pleasure. It's very distinctive, right? And that's one of those phrases that's really important at Chick-fil-A. So that young man opened the door, I walk in, And I could say, so my senses were on fire, and I noticed, like, there's no trash on this. Isn't a stereotypical fast food restaurant experience. And I walk up to the front counter's clean, and a young woman whose name tag said Deborah served me, right? And she had that, she was oozing core 4, and she took my order, and I had some friends say, hey, if you ever go to Chick-fil-A, you need to order the #1 meal with a freshly squeezed lemonade. All of our hero products, the Chick-fil-A sandwich, the waffle fries, and the freshly squeezed lemonade, right? So I did that, and Deborah took my order, punched it into the register, and I'm standing there. And so at Chick-fil-A, we talk about interactions versus transactions. Zaxby's does great with transactions. Burger King, McDonald's, they all have great food, you know? It's about the people in this room. It's about our team members that bring the building to life, right? That's the difference, right? That's the difference with your trolleys, right? It's the tour guides, right? It's their enthusiasm, it's their positive energy. So Deborah, while I was standing there at the front counter waiting for my food, do you think Deborah was just standing there like a statue? Do you think Deborah was interacting with me? She was interacting with me. She was asking me how my day went. She asked me where I worked. She was talking about the weather. We have a whole list of things at Chick-fil-A these are kids that we have at Chick-fil-A, teenagers, right? And at least teenagers that we hire, the only thing they know is this, right? That's all they know.
Yeah.
It's sad, right? Versus a lot of us in this room, when we grew up, you know, our parents taught us how to interact with people. The kids coming out of school today, they're not getting that, but they get that at Chick-fil-A. So they learn to interact. So Deborah was interacting with me. We have that list of questions that are at Chick-fil-A even today. We have a thing that says, interact, don't transact, with a list of how's your day going? How's the weather? Well, you got plans this weekend? All these questions to engage the guests, right? So Deborah was interacting with me, and then my food came up, and she handed my tray. And there's certain points in your life that are transformative, right? Well, my life was about to be transformed, right? Because Deborah handed me my tray, and she said, thank you, Mr. Wayne. Now, isn't it nice when people remember your name?
Yes.
You think about that. You know, when you're in the hospitality business, you know, and you ask somebody their name, you remember their name. Maybe at the end of the tour, you still remember their name. You remember where they were from, right? Isn't that pretty cool? And people are going to remember that, right? We talk at our new restaurant on State Road 16. You know, I was just there a little while ago, and it's like, I go in there and say to our team, I say, what exit are our guests going to remember? Exit 318, Mr. Wayne, exit 318. State Road 16, exit. We want people heading down to Orlando from New York, stopping there at Chick-fil-A, getting such an amazing experience that they remember exit 318, because they're going to go down to Orlando for a week, right? And then they're going to head back north to New Jersey or whatever. You know, and we want them to remember exit 3. Where did they get? Where was that place where we got the fresh ground pepper? Where was that place where they got the buttermints and wipes? And the tables were clean, and the restrooms were obsessively clean, right? And the restrooms smell good. Where was that? It was exit 318, you know? Or perhaps they just went through drive-through, right? If you all got dogs and you go through our drive-through, what do you get? What does the dog get?
A biscuit.
A little biscuit, yeah, you know, right? So, do you think? Is there any other fast food restaurant that gives a pet, you know, Yeah, I mean, it's those little things that positively differentiate, you know, us from everybody else, right? And we can't be complacent. We have to keep doing that. So Deborah hands me my food. She says, "Thank you, Mr. Wayne. Have a blessed evening." And it's like, what in the world? I'm standing there, right? And it's like, where am I? You know, and I'm standing there. Then I'm realizing that the music that's playing in the restaurant is like the same music I sing in church on Sunday, right? This is pretty wild, right? And so I probably stood there for maybe 30 seconds or so, and I think they were getting ready to call 911. It's like, something's wrong with this guy, right? But when you're being transformed, that's just the way it is, right? And I finally regained my composure, right? And I sat down at a obsessively clean table. Isn't it terrible when you go to a restaurant and you have to take a napkin and wipe off the table?